Make sure if she's gonna come home for the public meeting. Yes, okay, welcome everyone to the Plan of Conservation and Development Committee meeting. Today's January 26th, 2023. This is 2022 on here. So anyway, I'm gonna just hop right in and welcome everyone and turn it right over to Francesco. How are you doing? Good evening. And he's joining Zoom land and take it away.
Francesco, did you catch that your title says 22 instead of 23?
That's all right.
Oh,
That's
oh my God. I'm still stuck in the past. I'm in utter disbelief that it is the year 2023.
Yeah.
Let me actually correct that now. There we go. You want to just skip ahead? Anyone vote to just skip ahead to 2024?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
December.
23 did not start well.
No.
We're just
Okay.
No planes.
All right.
23, the last day of 23 is 132 and 132. That's it.
There you go.
Okay, let's go.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Well, welcome everyone to what is, believe it or not, our 14th meeting. And we have a very straightforward agenda for you this evening. First, we want to give you an update where we're at in terms of the implementation plan and the outreach that Jim and Maureen are doing to various other commissions and boards to get hopefully to get them to review, provide comment, and ultimately support our recommendations. So we'll let you know where we're at with that. Then I'd like to talk about the draft sections of the plan that we provided you with. We have now completed a draft of probably a little more than a third, close to half of the plan. And I'd like to get your feedback if you had an opportunity to review that. We can flip through it. If you haven't looked at it yet, that's fine. We can flip through it, and I'm happy to entertain any questions or comments that you have. And then I'd like to go over the future land use map one more time, because this is a very important part of the plan. We discussed it before, but we also have had some other heavy agendas. So by the time we got to the future land use map, I think you folks are pretty worn out. So I'd like to take a look at it, fresh set of eyes, and answer any questions you have. And we'll talk about where we go from here.
Okay, great.
Okay, as I mentioned, you've all seen the implementation plan. We provided it to you in a PDF file with tables that you could fill in, provide comment. We have had some comment back. To date, most of it's come from Historic District Commission. So we are in the process of sharing that with a much wider audience, and Jim has been spearheading that. And so, like I said, we want their feedback. Have we identified the right strategies and actions? What's your perception on the priority level of our recommendations? Who do you think should be leading these and supporting the action items? And so all of that is what we are looking for feedback on. And so far, Jim has met with the Economic Development Commission, Parks and Rec Commission, and Conservation Commission at meetings this month, has met with or is planning to. He's going to circle back with the Economic Development Commission again with all those commissions at the February meetings to ensure they've had an opportunity to review and receive any comment that they do have. And we're in the process of trying to connect with other boards and commissions as well. All right, the draft plan. Let me actually pull up the document itself. And at this point, I would like just to open it up to you folks to, talk about your first impressions. There's the cover. I took this picture this is up near Timberland of the lake or the reservoir up there. And it's controlled by one of the dams. I think that might be the Paper Goods Dam, maybe. This was
Harts
back when I
Pond.
was in town. Which, Jim, go ahead. Yeah.
Harts Pond.
Harts Pond. Thank you. Thank you. I took this when I was in town at the end of September, first week October. You can kind of tell by the changing leaves. Anyway, this picture came out great. But Jim makes a good point that not everyone's going to recognize where it is in Berlin. So if anyone has images they care to share with us for town, I've got a small collection now that are pretty good, but we don't have a lot to choose from. I'm happy to use another image on the cover or even a composite images maybe. So if you have images of Berlin, and they really have to be high quality, you know, this picture, if we're taking on an overcast day, wouldn't be the same picture. So they've got to be high quality, you know, blue sky or really good contrast. Even cloudy days sometimes can really bring out colors. So if it's particularly colorful, any sort of image that has really good quality, positive vibe, I'd be very interested in receiving from you. So please send our way.
Francisco, can I ask, you said that you had some other pictures, but you were
Yep.
looking at this one. Can we look at the other ones that you have?
Yeah. In fact, just let me pull those up right now. Just flip through them really quick. Okay. Make sure I don't have any family pictures mixed in here.
No, always just skip through those.
We're good. We're good. So I received some from the town. So the DPW is really proud of some of their abutments and stuff. So they sent me some.
Oh, that's all right.
But we'll get to the ones that I took. And then it was a really gorgeous day. So they came out really well.
I have some great enforcement pictures.
How about old boats? A lot of old.
No.
All right.
So these came out good, but you know, I can only use so many pictures of open space in the plan. So I try to get some variety. This property owner owns an engineering shop in town, huh? That's an incredible estate. Some new homes, Timberland. There's one of the pictures on the cover. Town Hall, Library, Kensington. I mean, that's a nice picture. Lots of color, kind of fun. They're getting ready for Halloween there.
I vote for the farm. I like the farm or the winding road.
I believe I have one with a rainbow over town.
I do use the winding road in the document already.
Oh, you already do? Okay.
Yeah, and to put it on the cover makes it look maybe too much like it's a transportation plan.
Right, that's my house.
Right.
Yeah,
That's a good one there.
Okay.
What other
Like
ones
this.
you have?
Okay.
We have greenhouse.
I think we want to be careful. I guess we're not accused of promoting a particular business,
Well,
especially that of one who has an owner that's on our committee.
yeah.
But if I were to zoom it out, I could maybe still kind of get the shot without all the sign information. Okay, well, I'll keep that in mind that you like that one. And let's see what else we have.
Francisco, you can use the other one from our Facebook page.
Oh, you have one on the Facebook page?
The
Okay.
on the farm Facebook page, I can shoot to you.
Okay. All right.
Windrows of hay with the tractor and the wagon with
Oh, okay.
background.
Something farming would be good. Well, actually,
Yep.
Well, I'm thinking it's a plan of conservation and development, so I would like to show some of the, not so much the development as just you know, the open spaces that we have. I think we should be very proud of that.
Okay.
Yeah, or the Berlin, well, yeah, the Berlin Fair, but then we're doing
that. This is a nice picture too.
Yeah, lovely.
It's got the Berlin sign there, and
oh, that one. Oh, I thought you meant the aerial shot of the,
oh no, this one.
Our lot or whatever.
Yeah, this one right here.
Yeah.
It's nice too. I mean, there's a lot of pavement in it, but
yeah, but I think if you zoomed in on the park and the fly,
yeah,
you could do
right.
that. Get rid of the truck and
something like that.
yeah, see, that might be kind of interesting.
Okay.
And maybe Photoshop the overhead wires.
now you're creating work for me.
no, you're
Okay.
right.
Get that truck out there,
Do that.
Yeah.
That's my
All right,
dream.
so to give you an idea of what I have, and if you have a little more diversity of images with people in it, like Berlin Fair. I know there are lots of Berlin Fair pictures online, but they all look like fair pictures that are promoting just how many people come to the fair. They aren't really kind of nice little scenes. So, okay, so now you know what my need is and what I'm looking for. So
but if we find these photos, where do you want us to email them to?
Senator Maureen, she'll forward them over to me.
All right.
Okay.
Or haven't you?
And depending how many you have, if you have like a Google Drive or whatever type of online thing people use for pictures, just send us the link.
Yeah, don't get too complicated on me.
Yeah. Just mail your Polaroids. We'll figure it out. All right. So let's get beyond the front cover. Well, I want to make sure we're acknowledging all the right people. So Maureen, I'll leave it to you to review this list. I know we have a couple new members. So just let me know who we need to have here and I will update that as appropriate. And then the plan is organized around our major topic areas. So we have an introduction, and then because environmental resources, I think are, and as you just mentioned, are one of the most critical aspects, one of the most valued aspects of the community. We'll jump right into that, followed by housing, economic development, transportation, facilities and services, cultural resources, then future land use, and then we provide the implementation summary, of which you've seen it. It won't be exactly in the format that we've shared it with you, but it'll contain much of the same structure and information. This is kind of how we proceeded with our meetings early on when we were focused on one topic at a time. So this should all be pretty familiar ground to you. The introduction's intended well, exactly what an introduction is. It's a touch of an executive summary. It states just a little bit about Berlin, about what the plan is, why you're doing the plan, what role it serves, how the plan is organized. And as a reminder, we've got a broad vision. We break that out into a goal for each major topic area. That we've identified a bunch of strategies that help us work towards that goal and specific actions that comprise those strategies. We reviewed the state plan and to ensure consistency with that. So we document that here. The regional plan, and we talked about you're in a new region now. So Berlin isn't specifically mentioned in the CROG plan, and the old plan is gone in a way. Your old region no longer exists, but we provide a profile of the CROG plan just to, to compare and to show the relevancy of your plan and the consistency of it with the CROG plan. We present your vision. We identify the different sections of the plan along with those goals. And this is all consistently color-coded. We talk about the process that we've gone through here, the engagement that we've done, and that has taken us through developing the plan. A very brief synopsis of our survey results. And we can include the full set of results. We have like a full report with all the data as an appendix or as an addendum to the plan. No need to load up pages with all of that data here. Similarly, with the public workshop, we provide a brief summary of the key points discussed at the workshop and the thematic meetings. So we're not trying to bog down the plan too much with all the notes and details from those meetings. The idea is to reassure people that we did outreach, we talked about people that are concerned about these issues, and to highlight the issues that people identified as being their primary concern so that we can show that those issues are addressed in the plan. We talk a little bit about key demographics just to give people a sense of how the community is changing and growing, population growing while school enrollment is falling a little bit. That's all relevant. It's relevant to housing and economic development. So we go over housing, we go over income trends, employment trends. And this is a brief snapshot. Most of this information is also included within the plan in more detail. And this is intended just to give an overview of what the key issues are and the trends are in the community. And then we talk about priorities. So if we were to distill this plan, we've got goals and strategies. We've identified a lot of issues. And what it really comes down to, what it boils down to, if you were to sum it all up, are what we believe to be 4 key themes or issues. One is the need to grow the economic base, to provide jobs, to provide people opportunity, and to help the Berlin basically continue to provide services and particularly and implement the recommendations of the plan, some of which are costly. Expand housing choice, and we've talked in detail about how important it is to have more housing choice. Protect environmental and cultural resources, and to invest in infrastructure. And that, if we could boil down the plan into 4 key themes, this is exactly what they would be. And that's all described right here. And then we jump into it. Environmental resources, we're currently working on this section. We have it just about done. I've got another day or 2 of work to really polish it up, but we're just about there. So I expect when we meet in February, we'll have this section ready for you. We'll share it in advance of the meeting, and we can go through that section at our February meeting. Housing, we've completed. We've completed a draft of it. Jim has reviewed. We've made some revisions since. And this is the revised version. There may be one more set of revisions after this based on your comments or based on whoever we share this draft with, their comments as well. But we're 90% there, I think. So we document and go into more detail here on all the key housing issues. And you see we very selectively and carefully use both charts and graphics and images that are relevant to the message that we're trying to communicate. We have probably 3 times this amount of charts and data. So we had to be very selective about what we included. And Jim actually recommended we cut some stuff. We might push it off to an appendix. So we're being very selective in what we're trying to do is we're really trying to build the case, tell the story and build the case for our recommendations. So we go through the data, we include some images, help tell the story, and you'll notice I try to stay away from a really technical report. While this is this document contains a lot of data, a lot of information, I try to keep it very readable, approachable, useful to a wide audience. So you'll notice that we haven't loaded this thing up with figure numbers. And we don't have lots of cross references to figures. You don't have to go to another page to find the figure that's referenced. We put the chart right next to the information that talks about it. So it's very intuitive. You don't have to go hunting around. And it just keeps it makes it look a little bit more like a polished brochure, a little less like a technical report in that way. Okay. We have maps, lots of maps. We try to keep them pretty legible, so we don't load them up with too much information. I'd rather have 3 maps that are legible than 1 map that has all the same information that you have a hard time reading because there's so much information. So the maps are very simple. We'll probably go back and add a little detail like some street names and that sort of thing just to help navigate. But it intended to tell a very simple story. You know, this map is intended to show where the residential zones are in town. And so there they are, yellow and orange. Then we have a very simple map that shows where other than single family. And this was kind of hard to name because it is everything other than a single family district, right? And it all reads in the key right there. And then we continue on with some more data as relevant to what we're trying to communicate. Talk about affordable housing supply. So this all builds the case for our goal. So by the time you get to the goal here, you should understand why that's the goal, right? You should have a full appreciation of why Berlin needs a wider selection, needs more housing choice for people through all stages of their life. That should make perfect sense. We've provided a strong argument for it. And furthermore, why we've identified these particular strategies in these action items. So here it is right here. We don't jam too much on a single page, plenty of white space. And I think the format's pretty intuitive. And this differs from section to section. Some have more strategies and actions than others. All right, any question on the housing section before I jump into economic development?
Tim, is that a hand I saw go up or no? No, okay, all right. Anyone?
I'll slide this in.
Oh, okay, all right.
How does it look to you? How does it lay out? Does it look pretty approachable? Does it look,
As far as the format goes, what you're doing?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's very agreeable. I don't
Okay.
I find it's really well balanced, as you said.
Okay.
Without getting too wordy or technical or really super down in the weeds, which is good.
Okay, good. Anyone else how does this strike your eye? Or is this a plan you'd be proud of?
Yeah, definitely. I like the blocking. It's not too much around the graphs like most tend to have, so it makes it more readable. So I like the format of it.
Okay.
I like the landscape too, as opposed to the portrait. I think that's makes all the difference.
It fits really well on the screen in this format, because I could tell you that most people will actually be reading the document in this format rather than print copy. And additionally, it really helps with the maps. It gives us space for both the map and some text next to the map. So it's very useful in that way too.
Just has a fresher look.
Yeah.
The fresh, more contemporary.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's review the economic development chapter. So once again, we had a tremendous amount of data. RKG worked with us, our sub-consultant Eric Halverson, with the content on both these sections. So they provided me with a technical memorandum that was just loaded with information, and most of the work was just to try to figure out what not to include. So we have a lot of very good data here, and we had to be very selective about what we showed because there's just so much of it. We didn't want to overwhelm people. But I think it'll be very useful data to a wide audience. I think the Economic Development Commission, I think this section of the plan will be very, very useful to them and to Chris Hedge and the whole group over there. so we have a combination of maps, tables. We've done studies, like we compared Berlin to surrounding communities for the purposes of just seeing where you stack up with respect to mill rates and grand list. We mapped out all your commercial industrial zoning districts, and you've seen a lot of this content in piecemeal in prior presentations, and here we're bringing it all together in one place. Go over labor force and unemployment rate trends, and the data is as up to date as it can be. In fact, because we did this initial work close to a year ago now, the ACS, the census data, had since been updated with new data. And so we went back into our old data, updated all the charts and spreadsheets, and there's a little bit of work in that, but it gets us as up to date as possible with all these data sources. So we go over labor force trends, household incomes, Berlin compared to the county, talk about employment, where people work. We get into the industries that they work in, where most people are employed, major employers in town. We talk a little bit more about the commercial industrial market, how it's changed over time in Berlin, you know, where in town those businesses are located and properties are located, how the assessed value breaks out per industry sector, per commercial sector, the market trends affecting vacancy rates and asking price. And this picture just worked out. I couldn't have had a better picture. I took this, not only is it a really nice picture because you have a blue sky, but here we are, a vacant building. This used to be Rite Aid, vacant building with a lease rate right on the sign. I mean, it just couldn't have been better. It ties into all of our content here. So you can see we're very intentional with our use of images. We're not just filling up white space on the page. It's very relevant to the narrative and to the discussion of these images.
You really like those blue skies, huh?
It makes such a difference. If this were an overcast day, this picture would just be washed out and a little depressing.
Yeah.
It's
the last 3 months.
Precisely, particularly if the pavement were a little wet, and it would just be a surly looking image.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, we have developed some really, I mean, this is an incredibly simple graphic that we developed.
Yeah, because Vito's is no longer open.
Yeah.
Are they not?
Yeah,
No, they're not.
They
So-
closed a new place called Slice Works or Works.
Okay.
Might
Well,
wanna-
so I have another half dozen pictures that Chris sent me like this. I've just put another one there.
All right.
I just figured since we want to be up to date.
Well, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, let's not
It's
show
been
off the
in like
business.
89 times, so you probably could find one.
Okay. And like this map is really simple, but I really like it. It just tells a story about Berlin just being in the right spot. Okay, and then we get a little more into business development activity, where the businesses are located, and if they've expanded, if they're new, and recent expansion. So we kind of tout some of the recent successes. We talk about your targeted economic development sites because it's really a very important component of your economic development work in the town. And an update on the status. And this is really about putting all the information that's relevant to economic development in one place, so that the plan in this section of the plan can be a really useful reference to anyone working on economic development. We dive into transit-oriented development because that's, it's multifaceted. It's housing, it's also economic development, it's placemaking. And then into our economic development goals and strategies. All right, and we have a lot of them. And that's how, central and issue economic development is, and that's how active the town has been, is that there's all of this stuff on the table that we want to capture and present.
Can you go back to the last screen? The one before that. That one. No,
Here?
the one before. Yeah,
Oh, I was there. There's a little bit of a lag time, sorry.
That's all right. Just on the big screen, the brighter blue with white is really hard to read. On my computer screen, it's fine. But on the big screen, it's really, really difficult. Now up at the top left corner. It's just
Oh, here.
that's the white font. I don't know if that's a thing because
Yeah, that's
on the regular computer screen. It may just be a
yeah,
screen thing.
that's the overhead project. Yeah, the overhead projector screens are. That's an issue with the overhead projector screen. In print, it'll read great in print, and on any normal laptop or computer screen, it'll read.
It's fine. Yeah, it is fine.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right. I just wondered if that was an issue. That's all.
Yeah, just certain projectors it'll be an issue for, but
I doubt most people will be looking at it on a projector. They'll be looking at it on regular, not blown up that way. So
Right.
it should be fine. Yeah. Okay. No, when he explains it, that's and yeah, it's a big difference.
okay. All right, and so we have, you know, this is a very robust section. All right, any other questions, comments related to the economic development section? You'll notice we consistently use color to help you navigate the document and to help you whenever you're within the document right away, you have an understanding where you're at with the document. You know, by example, now this whole section's blue. We're use blue for these numbers. We use blue in this map. We use blue in the charts. And so we're very intentional with the use of color. So you could very easily, as you're flipping through the document, you know right away where you're at in it.
Can I ask you about the economic development, the map that you had that was with the blue sections in it? Where was it?
Ted's?
Yeah, that one. So, because I can't read it from here. So, what are these earmarked for?
Yeah, the TED site. So the TED stands for Targeted Economic Development Sites, and basically, in all the way back 20 years ago, in the town's 2003 Plan of Conservation and Development, they identified these sites, and they've changed a little over time, but there are now 13 major sites across town that are mostly within commercial industrial districts that have some capacity for development or redevelopment. And this is a way of, you know, identifying the differences between those sites and a way of promoting those sites as well for development. It's a way of steering new development towards these areas. And we walk through that in detail on this page. We provide an update on the status of all of those sites.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And then on the graph itself with the map, the one we were looking at, will you have some of the roads designated or, disclaimed?
Say that again, Joan. I didn't.
Well, I think I was looking at the map, and from here, obviously, I'm not looking at it. I'm straining to see what the different sections are. So I was wondering, are you going to have on the map itself? Are you going to have some of the major roads highlighted?
Yeah,
like
we'll put. Once I need it.
So people
can
easily find out where that spot is within.
Yeah, we'll add some street names to this as well.
Yeah.
We do have Route 9 and 515 labeled, but we'll add some street names too, like Farmington Ave, just for orientation. Yep.
Yeah, I think
absolutely.
It doesn't have to be a lot, but just a little bit.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
Sure.
A question if there should be a map. Always been the geographical center of the town, the state, And that's been a draw for people coming to center of the state. They can go anywhere in 2 hours, New York, Boston, Albany.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're trying to get at with this thing right here. Yeah.
The major if that one's used, the major highway should be in there.
So you know what's interesting? It's interesting you point that out, because within this map we do have a layer for highways that we had it on. We tried it with the highways on, and then it just seemed to kind of clutter up the map. But,
yeah.
But if you think it's really important to show those, we could turn that back on.
Well, that's some of the businesses coming in town. That's what they're saying now. The most attraction is that they could jump on a highway anywhere and go anywhere, real quick.
Okay.
I don't know if it should be a state map somewhere on this, in this, with Berlin highlighted in the center. Stressing that where we are in the center of the state, that we can go anywhere. Because I'm in the transportation business, and I always said we go anywhere in 2 hours. Boston, New York, Albany, Providence, wherever you want to go, you can go within 2 hours. So that's.
And I can tell you, in terms of commuting and jobs, it's mostly right on this map. If we go back, which isn't to say, shipping and industry is a totally different story. It's a much bigger you have a much bigger area you're distributing to. But here it is right here, where Berlin's residents work. Mostly Hartford, but right behind that, they stay in town. New Britain, Farmington, Newington, Middletown, Meriden, West Hartford, East Hartford, Rocky Hill, followed by all other locations where, scattered all over the place. Right here, this is where most of your residents work.
Then the town is if they could distribute their business easily to the major cities.
Yeah, and we talk about that right here in the narrative. Berlin's industrial commercial markets benefit from its location. The town is situated in the center of the state and in southern Hartford County, et cetera, et cetera. And we talk about all the transportation services, the highways, the rail, freight rail, commuter rail, et cetera. So I think we're covering that ground. But to your point, we could turn on.
The slogan before was the heart of Connecticut.
Yeah.
I thought it was the Yankee Cadillac.
Yeah.
The heart of Connecticut, I guess. Yeah. They must have got. I think they over the years they got a little.
Well, Meriden tries to bite out of that apple too. And for Meriden, a long time.
Tries to bite that apple, but they're not.
Yeah, the best stuff is in the middle. That was their slogan.
That slogan was always called Meriden go.
Cromwell is actually technically.
Oh, you live in Meriden. I'm sorry.
For those curious, Cromwell is actually technically the dead center, right around where 9 meets 91 in Cromwell. That's
what I heard that.
That's
that Middletown Road and Mill Street.
Maybe that's the center of Berlin.
That's the center of. I can walk you to.
Okay, all right.
I thought the little cross was by Kensington Road and Norton.
All right. Well, this is a good discussion for a bar stool.
Right behind.
So we'll make a couple adjustments to these maps, but I think we have all the information we need.
Yeah, we don't want to dirty it up too much because it's a nice job you've done.
Okay, so let's keep going. As I mentioned, we have several sections still under development. Once we finish up environmental resources, this is next. This section. We're taking these 1 week at a time. Our game plan over the next month is one section per week. That way, when we come back to you next month, we have another 3 or so sections of the plan ready. followed by facilities and services, and then finally cultural resources. And that's, you know, both your historic resources, your farms, et cetera. And that brings us to our future land use map, our plan and map. We presented it here. We talk about the role of future land use planning. The state requires it, but it also provides a very important function. And that is to provide a foundation for your zoning. And I've got some slides, so I'll flip through this and we can go back to my presentation. We describe all our major future land use categories. We have a draft map of what that looks like. And then that's followed by our implementation summary, which will be a few pages. In this area, we call it a summary because we take all of those goals, strategies, and action items presented throughout the plan, and we put it all in one place for reference. And in addition to identifying them, this is where we identify the priority level and who's responsible for taking action, who the lead entity is, and who the supporting parties are as well. Okay. So that said, let me go back to the future land use plan. So as a reminder, the future land use plan looks a little bit different than your current or existing land use plan. Because here we're trying to project into the future. It's not just about what are those properties used for now, but what do we want these properties to be used for in the future? And that does take into account what all this land is used for now. But in some cases, it projects a slightly different vision for the future. You know, case in point, we might have some areas that are strictly commercial now, and whereas we're suggesting that areas be considered for mixed use development in the future. This map is probably 90% consistent with your existing land use map. We're just nudging things kind of in one direction or another. Mostly, I think, in the direction of conservation and conserving land. So you see all this medium green is designated as rural residential. That means very low density residential. And the darkest green, we're identifying all of our open space to ensure that remains as open space in the future. And we have a number of categories. Here they are in the legend. They're all represented by the different colors. And these categories are kind of like a simplified zoning map, right? We're not identifying 3 different types of industrial use or 3 different types of commercial use as you would with different types of industrial and commercial districts. Or rather, we're just identifying broad uses, and that provides a foundation for your zoning. So the way that works is that if you have a zoning text amendment that comes before the zoning commission of an applicant who has 100 acres, whatever it may be, and they say, you know, my land right now is residential, but it borders some commercial and industrial land, and I don't have any neighbors near the property. This land would really be better as commercial or industrial land. It would better serve the town, and I've recommended amending the zoning, changing the districts. Now, as a commission, really, you know, you have a responsibility to entertain that sort of proposal. And the question is, on what basis do you make your judgment? Well, the future land use plan and the POCD is where you start. And you ask yourself, well, is this proposal consistent with the POCD? So is it consistent with the goals of the POCD? And more specifically, this is the quick guide. You could go through the plan, flip through all the pages and go back and forth on the goals. Well, we do identify economic development, so it seems like it would be satisfy those goals. However, we also identify conservation and the need for more housing. So which is it? And that's exactly where this map comes in. And if it is not documented on this map as a future commercial or industrial use, then you should probably not, as a commission, the zoning commission, should not entertain that proposal. Unless everyone in town agrees that it's a good idea, in which case you are allowed to amend this map. You're allowed to update the POCD by amending this map. Of course, you need to go to a public hearing to do that again. But that's the kind of the checks and balances that this map provides and this plan provides. And that's the real value of it. Any questions on that? Okay, and so the categories include.
Did you have a question?
There's movements on that map that I don't understand. I would like to
go ahead.
Time to study that map, because the only map that came up on my iPad when you sent all the information for this meeting, that I have some questions on. So,
okay.
Can I study this map and
absolutely? In fact,
say something about it, or because I can't.
Absolutely, we have plenty of time, We want to get it right, and we're not in any rush here. So, what would be more helpful to you, because this plan, because of the fact we have to fit it on an 8.5 by 11. We're not fitting in all the street names. And once again, with all these maps, we're going to layer on a few street names for orientation, but it certainly doesn't have every street name on there. So what we can do is we can distribute to all of you like a poster size version of this, a PDF that you can zoom in on that has more street names on it for orientation, maybe some parcel lines or something like that. And I think that'll be a more useful tool for you rather than the map that's in this presentation or the map that's on the plan.
Yeah, I was looking at my iPad, a little iPad, and I'm trying.
Where is that? Yeah, where is that?
These movements that happen.
Yeah. Yep.
Couldn't figure it out.
And so for the maps that we do have within the plan, we have to keep those simple because they're all very small. And so we can't have parcel lines because it crowds the whole image. It makes it very difficult to see. We can't turn on all the street names. We have to keep them very simple. But what we also have is we have a set of full maps, most of them produced by New England Geo, for which we've taken their maps and have simplified them so we could shrink them down and fit them into the plan. And those can exist. We can put those all together in one place or bind them together into one PDF document. And those can be an addendum to the plan. We probably wouldn't make them part of the same PDF because the file size would just explode. But we can make them a separate document that eventually, when the plan is adopted and it's posted up on the town's website, you would post that in the same place. It would be POCD, and it would be POCD full map or full map package. And so those large poster size with full legends and scales and all the street names and parcel lines would be in that place, and you could really dig into those. And I think that's the best way to handle it. Okay. All right, so the categories, once again, rural residential, preservation of open space is the priority, right? Still, you can build on it, single family homes on medium, large lots, but open space preservation is a priority. Neighborhood residential, neighborhoods, clusters of neighborhoods, medium density. That's a good part of Berlin is neighborhood residential. Includes institutional uses like your schools, churches, other town facilities, parks, etc., are in those neighborhood residential areas. So it's not only residential, but neighborhoods are the predominant use. Medium density, that gets you closer to the East Berlin, Kensington, some of the neighborhoods you have there where tend to have more attached housing, multifamily housing mixed in along with your residential neighborhoods. And those are the areas typically served by sewer and water service. Your village centers, of course, Kensington, East Berlin, the real center of East Berlin, right at the core of it. Your mixed use areas, which there's some overlap here. Kensington Center is a village center. However, it also has some mixed use areas that are not the entire center, but portions of it. And then your commercial, I think it speaks for itself. Office technology is a very nuanced area, but it was worth calling that out separately from commercial because it's very distinctive from your general commercial areas. Industrial, and then we also note on the map, just for reference, your water bodies, rights of way, and town parks and open space.
Just one thing I would mention, Francisco, is that we did have a conversation about East Berlin, and we did identify it as a village center. That was not done in previous plans. So I want to call that out to the commission, and you can decide whether you want to follow that.
Right here.
Suggestion. Yes.
Yep. So it's a very small area we identified, but that's the real historic center. Schools there, and is there a post office, Jim? There's a cluster. There's a cluster of institutional uses. Some older homes. So it's definitely distinctive.
So what Jim said was East Berlin was not, in previous plans, was not identified as a village center. Yeah. And you see in the middle of the map where Kensington, the center of Kensington and the TOD area, that is a village center. Now this map for the 2023 plan is, the draft shows East Berlin with a village center.
Oh, good.
So that's
Can we call East Berlin a village? It's always been called the village.
The village of East Berlin?
It has a center.
Well, we'll be about the center now, yeah.
You cannot call it the villages.
No, the village.
All right.
East Berlin Village. It's been called that for nickname of East Berlin.
People will really be hammering down the doors trying to get it out.
There is no center of Berlin.
There's the post office. Anyway, I'm glad you designated East Berlin as having a little town center. I think that's good.
Good.
Thank you. Good thought.
Yeah, that was Jim advocated for that.
Yep, Jim, good idea.
And I just kind of want to remind everybody that while primarily Jim and I catching up on, editing and reviewing, but we're doing an overview here and talking about the, trying to point out, Francisco's doing a great job of that, but read the content, point out things that we're not diving into those content areas, which a lot of it we've already discussed in earlier meetings, and it's all been brought together based on the data and information and meetings we've already had. But that's what the committee's doing, is looking to see, does it say what it's supposed to say? If you see something, say something. But we don't expect it all to happen at the meeting because there's a lot of content here. So
that's why I like to do it.
So you're getting the overview from all of us during this.
All the different colors side by side can be a little unbelievable. Trying to look at it in your eyes right now. So anything bigger that you give us and exactly where this future movements are, because I can see most of it is what is existing today.
Yeah, well, let's go to this next slide. I lined them up next to each other. So here's your existing land use, and here's the future land use. And you'll see there's a lot of consistency. So this, I realize it's hard to read, but this dark green is on the existing land use map is parks and open space. The yellow color is low density residential. The lime green is agricultural. This brownish beige here is moderate density residential. This lighter cream, if you want to call it that, is village residential. What we call medium density. The dark gray is industrial. The red is retail shopping. We've collapsed that all into commercial, general business. We've collapsed that all into commercial. So you'll see a lot of consistencies in some of these patterns in this map and this map. It's just that we've taken it down from, 16 or so classes. We boiled it down to about 10 or fewer.
Can you explain to me what the difference in the South Kingston area? You got the dark greens and now all lime green now. So I see a change in that area there.
Yeah, well, we didn't distinguish agricultural lands specifically as a future land use because we know those are evolving, and it's nothing the town can really force. The town's not in any position to purchase lands to protect them for agriculture. We have incentive-based, tax incentives, the PA 490 program. We certainly make a lot of arguments about things town can do to continue to support farming and to ensure that it remains a vibrant part of Berlin. But the town doesn't have a lot of authority to zone to strictly allow for just agriculture. And a lot of the farms and farm owners in town may need an exit strategy in that they might want to at some point sell parts of their farm for residential development or some other type of development. So for that reason, we don't identify agriculture specifically as a future land use class. We basically took those properties and we put them either into rural residential, in which case farms and agriculture is part of the description of that area, or some of them that were located in neighborhood residential, we grouped them in there. Or in the case of, for example, the Hilltop area, that's currently identified existing land use as agricultural for whatever reason. Maybe because some of it's being forested, maybe, I don't know if there's some historic agriculture there or anything that's active. But that area is really, it's zoned for and planned for mixed use development. So here's the area I'm talking about, right? You see the land use map shows it as agricultural, and we show it for mixed use development.
Well, that's a big change.
Yeah. And that's what it's zoned for, and that's what our TED sites identify.
Lower half of the bottom Chamberlain Highway, American Line, that's a POD, Land Office Development was put in there.
Yep.
86 or something. But that's really a zone that was put in there to protect that land.
Yeah.
Because it couldn't be used because it required water and sewer, which wasn't out there.
Right. Right.
Okay. But now you hear stuff through the grapevine, the water departments and everything else between Merritt and Britain, Middletown and everything else want to connect their lines together and start water service for everyone in the world there. That changes that.
It does. And so it does. And so we're in a position, we have an opportunity to take a position on that. And given its location and all of the environmental resources that are in that area and all of the other areas that are better suited for economic development, commercial and industrial expansion, what we're saying with this map is that the future of this area should be, despite the fact there are some carve-outs in this area, the future of this area really should be rural residential.
And is that what that color represents? Because I can't see what.
Yeah, so on the existing land use map on the left, there are some purple, and that's agricultural plan business properties. And there may or may not be some zoning to support that. What we're saying, by the fact that we don't identify those as commercial or industrial uses on this map, we're saying that the future of this area, should those properties change, should the zoning be reconsidered, should be rural residential, and that this area is not a priority for expansion of sewer and water.
Okay, I see your point.
Okay.
Okay.
So.
And that's the way you're trying to protect that South Kensington.
Absolutely.
Keeping the water and the sewer out, which I agree with you.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing in the room is wondering if we, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I'm hearing is that would it be appropriate to, or the reasoning possibly for why you did or didn't put rural residential / agriculture as a thing.
Yeah, let me go back.
Maybe help some concerns
right here.
To the
What I'm saying is because the POD zone is not potentially protected in that area anymore. So it should be farmland or broad residential more than anything else. Water, no deep water, sewer and stuff like that, wells and septics. Protect that area a little bit more. We have some farms out there are very, very needed in this town. You know, they're part of the town that's got to be protected. So and it was protected. So I think that zone there should be changed anyway. That POD zone should be changed now.
Changed what?
To the underlying is agriculture, but
okay.
The rural housing R86 bigger zoning may be the thing, or you need zoning for farmland.
So I do want to call your attention to our description of rural residential, and you can see it highlighted there. It starts with, right, the first 3 words. Preservation of farms and open space is the top priority for these areas. It goes on to say single family homes are present and allowed on medium to large lots. These areas are often located outside of sewer and water service areas and have limited transportation options.
So
if you changed it from POD to rural residential, you're going to see it developed right away for houses.
Yep.
So you would have to
you'd
have to choose a zone or create a zone that would have like a 10-acre lot, not a 2-acre lot.
Yeah, or a 10-acre lot or a horse farm, whatever.
Or the current plan calls for consideration of an agricultural overlay, right?
Right.
So,
you know, I'm just trying to figure out how to protect that land out there with the potential water, which means sewer, mergers of all the water companies and everything else. How to keep it towards the agriculture, you know, single family residential, but the large lots, not small ones. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the zone
If
design would be.
and I think we discussed this at one point, Francisco, but that POD had an application a few years back to rezone it to residential, which was defeated to keep it agricultural and whatnot. So that's where I'm hearing a little bit of concern for that title.
Well,
the title not including agricultural, kind of in your face.
Right.
I'm willing to bet that the density of that proposal for rezoning it was probably for something that was relatively small lot, so they could get a lot of housing in.
It was R86. We think that's
well, that's okay. That's pretty large lot. That's
it's contiguous properties.
It's all R86.
Yeah. So I mean, there wouldn't have been too many homes.
Reserve area, mountain reserve, could be put in there too.
Yeah.
I think that has an elevation requirement.
You know,
3 acres.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the market's going to determine whether agriculture remains in Berlin. I mean, we're doing everything we can through the plan to support it. Yeah. The PA 490 program is intended to help relieve, provide tax relief to make those farms and properties more viable. But for some of these properties, if the economics just don't make sense, these folks need to be able to do something else with their land that's consistent with the uses that are around it also is environmentally responsible, in which case, 2-acre lot is very low impact and consistent with much of the development that you have.
One of the things I'm thinking about as we're having this conversation is one, if we on the land use map just put the word agriculture too, so rural residential / agriculture, to highlight the definition. And again, we had the discussion, and we have some some strategies about allowing houses on on farms of 10 acres or 5 acres and that sort of thing in this area, I think is what we were thinking about. And the so what comes to mind is what the commission could consider, right now the POD, the permitted use is agriculture, and maybe we should just call it planned agriculture, and then look at the strategies that we've outlined to allow some flexibility for houses that are related to the farms. Something, I mean, again, this is something I think we're going to have to revisit, but just throwing it out there.
Yeah, okay. I'm just concerned about the farms out there.
Yep.
Was brought up to our face pretty much in the last year here. Is it us to allow the farms to do some related farm uses, like some of these farms that got little stores and stuff like that on it, to sell their products with, because I know what you're saying is that these farms are not viable to be a farm for a long time, because it's not viable for people to keep that much land right now.
Yeah,
Be able to really think unless it's old family land that's paid off a long time ago or something.
Right.
Then it could sit there, but
we have
more permissions out there.
Yeah.
What they could do to make their farms viable. And
we have made recommendations to that effect. If you go to, I think they're housed mostly in the cultural resource section. We do make recommendations that farms be allowed to operate more accessory uses to allow them to be viable. So we are supporting that idea, that concept with the plan.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more of us studying that zone out there and making a zone that's viable for them.
Yeah.
You know, this is only 10-year plan, so you know, always can be changed 10 years down the road again. But to make it viable for them out there, you know, when I see, you know, when I go to Vermont and stuff like that, all these farms are coming up with extra stuff to do to keep their income coming in. You know, and I think it's pretty cool. You know.
Yeah.
Well, you think about it, the people that are farming the land don't own the land.
That's true. They're leasing it. They're leasing it.
They're doing favors to keep it in agriculture for the owner, for the lower tax base. What's going on?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Okay, this is a very good discussion. You folks are really digging into it, so I appreciate
really fired up
interest.
Yeah, that area out there that needs more study and more wording.
Well, you know, I'm just gonna say it because there's an elephant in the room, and I think we ought to address it. And recently, the planning and zoning action took an action to allow for greenhouses in that southern part on Chamberlain Highway. And the greenhouses that were permitted were basically 5 acres each. So the commission, it was a vote, it was a site plan amendment or whatever, and it went down. So, I mean, it was accepted. I think as a planning and zoning person, here's my fear, is that that's only one strip of land right next to probably another 30 acres or 40 acres. And with this now going to go in there, my fear is that we are going to have not a Vermont vista, but now we've opened ourselves to a vista of greenhouses. And so we talk about this agricultural land, and I'm sorry, I'm going to get upset about it. We talk about agricultural land and protecting agricultural land, but we've opened the door to a little bit of a demon. And I can understand both sides of the argument, and I'm not here to criticize, but I'm looking forward now. And now my hope is that somehow we can rein in and not be inundated with greenhouses all over the place, up and down the Chamberlain Highway. So as a planner, that's what I'm thinking about now. And I need help from the commission. I need help from you. I need help from our town planner. How do we stuff the genie kind of back into the bottle before it explodes on us? Do I do it by reversing or the text amendment? Do I do it by putting an application of special permit on top of the text amendment? How do we save what's left? All right, I'm going to get really upset about it. I'm very passionate about it, but that's how I feel. I mean, I understand the guy wants to make money. But I mean, 5-acre building? I can't wrap my head around it.
I understand Joan's
passion.
Just passion and everything else. I understand that. But that's what was approved was a futuristic farming.
Okay, yeah, so, but now I'm
Okay.
It doesn't need
saying,
to take place on agricultural
Well,
land. It can
yes,
take
but
place
is
in
it
an
gonna, is it
industrial
gonna
area,
go,
so
is it
that's,
gonna go all the way down?
you know, it's.
Well, that's the question, that's the question.
No,
Okay.
that's the, I
Uh,
mean, we have to,
What's future farming going to do to the town? That's a question, that's a good question. You know, because farming itself is, they're exploring more and more different type of farming. Because they're not viable, what you just said. So they're exploring that different farming,
it's a hydroponic farm.
okay?
So it literally can go anywhere as long as it has sunshine and a flat
But
piece of property. So
If we, you know, maybe that's what we gotta do is make it that allowed in industrial zones or whatever you want
So
to
you
say.
need to define agriculture better and define industrial agriculture and identify areas where it can go
yeah,
Right,
versus the small mom and pop farm that I think everybody thinks of when you say the word farm.
yeah.
That's what people think of. They don't think of the possibility of a large scale.
agriculture
Yeah.
is changing, the world is changing, and agriculture is changing.
Well, yeah, and
Somehow we have to move with it.
no, we gotta get
Okay.
ahead of it. If you wanna, I'm telling you right now, listen, we have, because you know, the bottom line is, we're talking about how important it is to have open space, how important it is to have green fields, how important connections. And that's what makes the town have character, and that's what makes it unique. If I wanna just live in a multifamily, hell, I could go to Britain, Newington, I can go to any other place. But people come to Berlin and they kind of like it because they've got rural winding roads and nothing is the same. You've got place that's a town center, but you have vistas, you have agriculture, you have mountain climbing, you have all these neat things. And we're giving it away. And I'm just afraid that, like I said, the genie's out of the bottle. Now, I just want to find a way to get ahead of the genie so that the other monsters won't say, hey, this is Slim Pickens over in Berlin, bang, bang, bang. And then we have nothing. And then we're no better than any place else. So that's what I'm trying to do now is and Maureen helped me out with this. Maybe I'm crazy, but I just see it as a problem that's looming, a storm that's coming. And I want to make sure that we have our ducks in a row.
So in response to that, I think Diane kind of hit the nail on the head that I was thinking at the same time is one of the avenues is to shore up definitions and expand definitions to include today's economy and their choices and what's there. You know, in 1930, you'd say agriculture, nobody would have thought anything like that.
Yeah.
In 2023, we've got different types of agriculture, different types of farming, and we get asked those all the time. So I think it's kind of that perhaps even bringing into, you know, a goal or, you know, one of our visions is to work on types of uses. You did it once only a few years ago with the agricultural regs by expanding those in 2014, I think, 2016. Yeah. Whenever you did the big change and allowing wineries and, you know, other things that didn't come to fruition. That's where, you know, the commission thought things were going at that point. They went somewhere else. You know, we haven't seen that. We've seen something else. So you know, it's always a matter of, like you said, staying one step ahead of what the next innovation or technology is. Yeah. And accommodating for it instead of reacting to it, being ready for it, which is hard to do. There's some really smart people out there that are thinking new things every day that we're in our little bubble of not
Yeah,
seeing it.
Maybe-
I agree, but I think we need to either make it as a special permit, you know,
as a
or put a
commission-
limit or whatever. I
As
don't know.
commission, like UConn, they study this all the time, right?
And we had
Ask the
consultants,
business.
the agricultural regs,
Oh,
we
yeah.
had consultants that give us.
May-
input on
You know, maybe we need to get a hold of those consultants again and say, okay, where is this heading?
No.
Okay, what
I-
is the best way to work it? And we need the expertise feedback, because we don't know. We don't know.
And you know, I'll kind of put it
I don't
parallel
trust
with
state.
the hilltop / Golden Triangle area. You know, that vision of the mall that was
Yeah,
there
that could have been
20
a
years
huge
ago.
greenhouse.
You know, now it's rethink. What is it now? We're in a different century with different thoughts and different decades.
No.
That's what my greenhouse development is, you know, that's the power of it, is to anticipate at the same time evolve.
Yeah.
Anticipate and evolve.
Maureen, we got some work ahead of us. I don't want to take up all your time, Francisco, so I just want
I'm sorry, these are important issues. You know, we're laying the foundation for these very important zoning considerations. We're not going to get it all figured out in the POCD, but we want to make sure we provide you with the kind of support you need to make these decisions in the future.
This is the planning part of planning and zoning. Basically, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about our next steps. You'll probably notice our schedule just kind of keeps extending. And
Okay.
well, first of all, Jim had reached out to OPM, who's the entity at the state that receives our plan, inquired about our plan, its due date and adoption. And basically they told us that as soon as we adopt the plan, as soon as we finish it and adopt it, at that very moment, the clock starts ticking again for your next plan. So as soon as we adopt it, it's due in 10 years. Now, your existing plan has got a few months left. I think it expires in June, maybe.
September.
Or all the way until September. So
Hey.
because of that, we backed off some of our we were on a pretty aggressive schedule that would have had us finishing up right around now originally. We backed off that because if we had adopted it this month, you would have lost about 8 months. Your old plan, you would have surrendered. So we've relaxed the schedule a little bit so that we have plenty of time to give everyone an opportunity to review the document, get all the feedback from the boards and commissions, give you an opportunity to review it, and which gives my team a little more time to do all the work in developing it. So with all that being said, I think we're now looking at bringing it to a public hearing for adoption in May, and there's no reason to believe that we can't hit that date. That gives us plenty of time. So what that involves is us meeting again next month to review. I expect by then we'll have at least 2, maybe 3 sections of the plan developed that we can get to you in advance of the meeting for your review, so we could review those sections. We can then talk about any feedback that we've received on the implementation plan. And if there are any decisions to be made there, we can discuss those decisions to make sure you fully support any changes to the implementation plan. And that brings us to March with what we hope to be as the final complete draft, not the final version of the plan, but the final draft, meaning a complete draft with all the sections in place that's been reviewed internally with an implementation plan that everyone's had an opportunity to provide comment on, at which point we'll go through that once more with you And then once we're all in agreement that that is the plan we are ready to advance, we can share it with council, which is required that we share it with council, and also with CROG for them to provide comment. Once we do that, that starts a 65-day process, meaning we can't pull the hearing until 65 days after that is done, which means going into April, things start to get kind of quiet for us. So we won't have a meeting scheduled for April. We're just going to sit back, wait for any comments from Councilor Krog, make revisions as necessary. Usually it's just a few word changes here or there. If either Councilor Krog sees any major changes being necessary, then we'll call an April meeting so we can review that with you. But I don't expect that to happen. At least 35 days prior to the public hearing, we need to file the draft plan with town clerk. So we need to make a hard copy of it available in the office and post the draft plan on the town's website. And basically we'll hopefully by that point have comments from council and CROG so that we can make any final adjustments necessary. And then the draft plan that we put up will be somewhere between 99 and 100% there, meaning hopefully we won't have to make any changes to it following that. That being said, we do have a public presentation of the plan that we will do prior to the public hearing, and we have to talk about what forum will be most effective for that, whether in person or virtual. And the purpose of that is we're going to, announce it, send out emails, flyer, let people know. The purpose of that presentation is to relieve some pressure from the public hearing for adoption. Is so that way, if anyone's interested, they don't know what it's all about, we can have a meeting. There's no pressure of adoption that night. You don't have an agenda with other things on it. We can take all the time we need to walk people through it. And that way also, if people point to any issues or deficits, where we come to the public hearing prepared and we know how we're going to handle it. So the public hearing for adoption, if we've done the public presentation ahead of time, we don't necessarily have to do a full presentation of the plan. We can do just a 5-minute executive summary level presentation, and then you can bring it to a vote, and the whole thing might not take more than 15 minutes on the agenda. And with that being said, if in the public presentation that precedes it, and we would probably do that a week or two in advance of the public hearing, that public presentation. If there's anything we figured out we need to revise, it usually involves changing a word here or there. What we can do is when we get to that public hearing for adoption, you agree to adopt the plan. The Planning Commission agrees to adopt the plan with those revisions. And then that settles it. Then we change the words or whatever it may be. We get you the final copy of the plan. We file it with OPM, and our work here is done. And so that's how the schedule lays out for us. And that this affords us plenty of time. So I don't see any reason why I would have to push out into the summer. Okay, any questions on that schedule?
Sounds good.
So this is what it looks like. We do have a separate component of our work that's independent of the POCD itself. We've got a little bit of budget to assist the town with the zoning, with some zoning work. We've done a little bit of work to date. We reviewed your zoning for opportunities for more affordable housing as recommended by the affordable housing plan that we developed, and provided Jim and Maureen with a memorandum of findings from that. And we still have budget left to do a review, to follow up on that work, and to also do a review of the Berlin Turnpike district to see if there are any adjustments needed there. So it may be that, you know, following adoption of the plan, we then get into the zoning work, or if in that 65-day period where the plan's being reviewed, things are kind of quiet, and both Jim and Maureen have some bandwidth, we could focus on the zoning work in that period.
Francisco, will that zoning review of the Berlin Turnpike include the Golden Triangle area?
Potentially, yeah. Our scope is kind of open on that. We don't have a ton of budget, but the intention is we take a look at the existing zoning. We make recommendations how the zoning should be revised, and we work within the budget we have to get you to help the town figure out what, if anything, needs to be done with the zoning for the turnpike.
You may recall one of the reasons to pull that in was the BTD mixed use zone,
right,
and whether or not they were doing what was envisioned based on the projects you got under that zoning,
right,
and then kind of broaden it beyond as necessary within BTD. It is a limited scope or budget that. Not so much limited scope, we kind of left that a little fluid so that we couldn't adjust the funds to the right places or what needed to be done, but it is, but that's where it started from.
Yeah. So, but with the Golden Triangle property being up for sale now, yeah, something's coming. So
it's an area of concern.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah. We want to do right by it for sure.
But was there any study was brought up a long time ago about like rails to trails or trails system throughout town? We were talking about the railroad tracks out of East Berlin. We were talking about behind 502 Turnpike, I think, where the last developments coming in next meeting for approval. We're wondering if that resources that we've got over the years, there's been a connection of most of the greenways, and you know, is there any way we can improve those greenways, trails, in the town? We all, you're looking for. The thing now is the bicycle things in the roads, and you know, bicycle, and then recreational trails. Okay, it's just I think the collection of properties that we've got over the years that they're starting to get together. You know,
absolutely, yes.
Might be land trust owned, but the connections are happening.
Absolutely. So my response to that would be, I think we're going to do a very good job of capturing that potential and documenting it in the plan. I think you'll see it in the plan's recommendations and in some of our strategies and specific actions that we point to that potential for greenway connections and trails. And in the sections, and that is going to show up in multiple sections of the plan that you've yet to see, to some extent in the environmental resources section, but especially in the town facilities and the transportation section. We're going to highlight some maps that show all those potential connections and all the opportunity that's there, and to take a look at improving the connections within Berlin, but more importantly to all of the trails in the region. And there's a lot of planning being done. There's for instance, an airline trail, the Farmington Canal Trail planning study that Rivercog is currently looking to launch soon. And that goes, right along the edges of Berlin. So connecting to that trail, if built in the future, there's a real opportunity there, and we're definitely going to show that in the plan.
Yeah, Plainville's looking on that now.
Yeah, and Plainville has theirs. They're Farmington Heritage Canal Trail connections and connections across Plainville to New Britain. So yeah.
Farmington to Manchester's the game plan.
Yep.
Farmington to Manchester.
Mm-hmm. They're doing it right now. This year at the class.
Oh, Manchester's great.
Anyway.
Yeah, we're going to cover that ground. We're going to show it in some maps too.
Yeah, we're working on a recreational trails grant application now with Middletown to look at Pistol Creek and the Lamentation Mountain area.
Yep.
But there were, as Francisco said, Middletown and Meriden are working on a connection between the airline and the Farmington Valley trails. So that might even be part of the same application, but we are, you know, we have started a regular dialogue with them, and they're kind of planning out their routes, and we're going to try to tie into it. But so that's kind of already underway to a degree.
I think that trail that you brought up, the East Berlin, the railroad track there, is pretty much a easy one to do because it's there basically.
Is there a train on it?
Well, not anymore. the easement's there.
Where is it?
Runs from Berlin Street up to Back Hill.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All righty. So the next meeting you said.
Our next meeting, yes. Yeah, it's a month from today, Thursday, February 23rd, 6:30.
Okay, 6:30.
Good. Everybody good with that?
I'm still good with that. March is a little.
As long as you send me that email, I could just go put it on my meeting schedule.
I better put on my calendar now. Right now.
I love her emails. It just, and then it comes up on the phone.
6:30, you said?
You got a meeting tonight.
And this concludes our meeting.
Wow, excellent.
So you might want to formally wrap things up, but this concludes my part of it.
Okay.
One thing I just wanted to mention.
All right.
One thing I was going to mention in relation to the meetings I've had with the other commissions, and an item that came up was really kind of incorporating specific capital recommendations into the plan, maybe by referencing the CIP or other things. And we're finding that a lot of times when I'm doing grant applications, the state is asking the question, is this project referenced in your POCD? So we're gonna probably come up with some revisions to the goals and strategies and actions that'll be more specific about incorporating some of these projects that are in the works in some form.
Sure.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Yep. Works for me.
Okay.
All right. So any other questions?
Those grants are they're upgrading our water system because
no.
You know,
pay for that.
it's just like
I know.
But they're basically almost any of the grant applications are asking for does the town plan looking to have this done and wants a reference to the POCD. So if we can, obviously certain departments and commissions have their charge and, have their long-term plans and their the CIP and their view, and that then just ties it to this so that there's that connection, which is also what the implementation plan will help with is, unfortunately that wasn't done for 2013, but in 2003, it was a very effective tool to keep everybody remembering the POCD exists and let's get those goals of what wants to be accomplished done and have targets. So hopefully I'll pull it all together.
All righty. All right. Well, if there's no other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will make that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Diane Jersey. Do I have a second? A second. All right. Thank you, Sandy. And for the discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
For the record, thank you, Brian. And for the record, it's 8:15, 8:16. Thank you, peoples.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you for a very productive meeting.
All right, we'll see you
Good
next
night.
week.
Okay.